When the attempt to form a fifth column failed, Georgia decided to proceed with the clean field plan. South Ossetia was meant to be devastated by clear-up operations. Its residents were supposed to bury their dead, and a team of Dmitry Sanakoyev was intended to take over the major offices and pass the wayward republic under control of Mikhail Saakashvili. At present, Tsinval is still unable to answer the most important question. When will a normal, happy, peaceful life begin? A life without duties in trenches, without night shooting, without fear of traveling outside the city. We know the answer to this question. We are building a peaceful Ossetia and a strong Georgia. The prosecutor's office of South Ossetia found a number of trucks filled with uniforms of the new Sanakoyev administration. Apparently, the regime of Saakashvili was so confident of the success of the Blitzkrieg in South Ossetia that they even took the trouble to provide for a neat and tidy look of the new pro-Georgian administration of a devastated Tsinval. Moreover, special new emblems were designed for special task forces of the new administration, those of the Ministry of Internal Affairs and of the Center Anti-Terrorist Units. The Ossetian Prosecutor's Office believes that the so-called Center of Anti-Terrorist Units of the Dmitry Sanakoyev's administration are directly responsible for the organization of terrorist acts. A detailed analysis of all the documents suggests that essentially it was not an anti-terrorist organization, but rather a terrorist one. We have their manuals. It's enough to look at what they were taught, laying mines and demolition works. There is enough material proving that they were taught to carry out terrorist acts of sabotage, taught how to behave during mopping up operations. Here you are. This is an instruction manual describing how a team should behave during an urban mopping up operation. A number of terrorist attacks took place in South Ossetia on the 3rd of July and on the 1st of August. The chief of the local village police office, Demenis Nodar Bibilov, was blown up in his house. Several civilians were killed. I would like to show you a report for the Minister of Internal Affairs of South Ossetia, Karkusov, from the head of the Anti-Terrorist Center, Captain Tsertsevadze. It reads as follows: for the courage and dedication in discharging his functions during the events of July 3rd and August the 1st, 2008, toward the officer of CAT of the Ministry of Internal Affairs of South Ossetia, Chief of the 3rd Police Division, Lieutenant Tsitsiashvili, with a bravery medal. Here is his personal album. He has been somewhere in Kosovo. He has been even to the Pankisi Gorge, visited the Kodori Gorge. Here he is in Kosovo as part of KFOR. Here he is with German instructors, graduates from a NATO school. This is why people are sent here, into the counter-terrorist group. This means that, in fact, the President of Georgia, the Georgian authorities, decorate their officers with government awards for murdering innocent civilians. Plans of new terrorist attacks were also discovered by the Ossetian prosecutor's officers in the vaults of the so-called Anti-Terroristic Center, CAT. Sanakoyev's officers filmed the supports of the gallery leading to the Rocky Tunnel. Judging by the thorough attention they paid to each detail, soldiers of the alternative president planned to blow up this gallery. If this had happened, the road between Russia and South Ossetia would have been blocked, and Russian troops would have been unable to come to the aid of the Ossetians and Russian peacekeepers. For some reason, this attack failed, as well as a bacteriological attack on Tsinval that was to be implemented prior to the Georgian attack. A plan called Stuchakuri was found in the safe of the members of the Counter-Terrorist Center. In Georgian, Sochukari means a gift. This cynical gift to the residents of Tsinval implied poisoning the city's water supplies with typhoid bacteria and was meant to prevent the population from resisting the aggressor. There is the main water pipeline coming to the city. There are storage pools to accumulate water. Then it flows to the city. The task was to poison these pools. And what is more, nobody was allowed to approach the springs in the city by such a fire barrier. When they did not succeed in poisoning the water, Provocators blew up the water pipeline. Barbarity of Georgia is a pathology. It should be studied by biologists. On the 8th of August in the evening, they drained an irrigation canal, and a flood began. That means that in addition to all the horrors of the war, people were in the water up to their knees. At 1 p.m., the 8th of August, when Ossetian militiamen were fighting to the bitter end for the city and villages, when the Republic's streets were still filled with blood and civilians were hiding in crammed up and flooded basements, Georgian protege Dmitry Sanakoyev proposed to the Ossetians to surrender and leave Tsinwal, and their lives would have been saved. Today we agreed to and declared a moratorium on shooting from the Georgian side from 3 till 6 p.m. That's why I address myself to all those who are armed in the city now. If you have a possibility to lay down your arms and get out in the Ergeneti direction, everybody will be guaranteed an amnesty. Nobody will be persecuted, and no one will be shot at the checkpoints. To propose the city defenders to leave is a strange declaration coming from a person calling himself President of Ossetia. And even more, the promise of safe passage corridor has become one of the greatest betrayals of the war. The prosecutor's office has to determine who announced the civilians hiding in basements that they could save themselves by taking the Zakarskaya road from South Ossetia to North Ossetia, which was Russian territory already. Many people who took this corridor were killed on the Zakarsky road, where Georgian soldiers ambushed them. Marfa Gzhioyeva, with her family, also was going to escape by this road. But a journalist who was in her house at the time called Moscow and found out that there was no such corridor, and the family stayed in the basement. They betrayed the people. There were many in the city whom they betrayed like this. And the people were going to escape, and they were shot. It would be wrong to consider that the war that was launched in the Caucasus on the 8th of August 2008 was only between two countries, Georgia and South Ossetia. The Georgian military were supplied with weapons by 15 countries: the USA, Bulgaria, Hungary, Greece, Latvia, Lithuania, Turkey, France, the Czech Republic, Estonia, Israel, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Serbia and Ukraine supplied weaponry, military equipment and ammunition. The Georgian army received about 300 armored personnel carriers from the NATO countries. 100 tanks were to be delivered. Besides, Georgia received 67 artillery pieces, 99 mortars, 150 anti-tank missile systems, 200 portable anti-aircraft units. The French Air Force is going to deliver 4 Mirage fighters. The American side was to supply 15 Black Hawk helicopters. The Georgian Navy received 2 naval ships and 6 gunboats, 10 missile-armed patrol ships. Ukraine, not being a NATO member, supplied Georgia with more than 90 APCs, 10 EL-29 aircraft, 4 helicopters, and 10 Akasia air defense systems. The biggest suppliers were the United States and Ukraine. I don't know what Americans are thinking about. They butt into everything. What is Bush doing? He is a complete scoundrel. I would bite him to death. There are 3 people: Saakashvili, the Ukrainian president, and Bush, who should be hanged. God damn Saakashvili. God damn those countries which supplied weapons to Georgia to annihilate our long-suffering nation. Condoleezza Rice comes to a democratically false country. Let her come here also. It will take her only an hour. It takes only an hour to get here from Tbilisi. Let her come here and see firsthand what